We begin this hour with some troubling news that's costing the American taxpayer a lot of money. The Pentagon has acknowledged that millions of dollars have been misplaced that benefit the Saudi-led campaign there in Yemen. According to military officials, for more than 3 years, the money was used for, quote, plane refueling fees. And while the U.S. is calling this mistake an accounting error, Pentagon officials insist its support for the coalition is necessary. RT's Caleb Maupin has the report.
When it comes to dealing with America's allies, the Trump administration has one great fear: paying too much money.
Well, you want us to say maybe you're going to have to pay. Many nations owe vast sums of money from past years, and it is very unfair to the United States.
They're not paying their bills.
Well, there's one war in which the United States has been paying well beyond its fair share. According to the Department of Defense, Saudi airplanes and airplanes from the United Arab Emirates have been refueling themselves at the expense of the American taxpayers. Apparently, it's all due to an accounting error.
U.S. Central Command recently reviewed its records and found errors in accounting, where Department of Defense failed to charge the Saudi-led coalition adequately for fuel and refueling services.
Now, it's quite an expensive mistake. The costs are still being added up, but apparently it's in the millions of dollars.
U.S. aerial refueling assistance was provided to the Saudi-led coalition for more than 3.5 years, activities that likely cost tens of millions of dollars. We must ensure that U.S. taxpayers are fully reimbursed for that support.
The United States uses KC-135 Strato tankers and KC-10 extenders to refuel planes mid-air. A mere hour of work with these aircrafts costs over $10,000. Now, these refuelings were stopped in mid-November, but that was after over 2,000 operations had been carried out in which the United States was helping the Saudis to wage their war against Yemen. And that is not a popular war. 75% of the U.S. public, according to the latest polling, doesn't want the country to be involved. But U.S. government officials seem to think differently.
We do believe that the support for the coalition is necessary. It sends a wrong message if we discontinue our support.
But what the U.S. public wants doesn't seem to be of concern. The United States remains highly involved with the Saudi coalition as it wages its widely condemned war against its neighbor. Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.
And with the Pentagon in question, we're being joined now by Hassan El-Tayyab. He is the co-director of Just Foreign Policy. Hassan, good of you to be with us today. So first, let's start there. Well, what do you think of the Pentagon's negligence? What does that say about their attitude towards the American taxpayer?
I think every bureaucracy needs correct oversight, and we definitely need more oversight over the Pentagon. And in general, I think we need Congress to reassert its war authority and definitely do a full audit of the Pentagon.
And one of the more shocking parts of this latest discovery is that the Pentagon was, as they say, simply failing to charge the Saudi government, who we know is obviously an oil-rich country, for these refueling missions. How does this reflect on the larger overall policy, the overall stance that the U.S. takes on Saudi?
Sure, that's a great question. Right now, the United States has been giving Saudi Arabia a blank check to wage its war in Yemen and to commit atrocities in this country. And this is just part of a larger conversation. With U.S. military support and financial backing, we've been providing mid-air refueling, targeting assistance, and basically allowing Saudi Arabia to commit war crimes on the people of Yemen and starve the people, cutting off the flow of food, fuel, medicine, and clean water, leaving about, I heard recently, 16 million people on the brink of famine. So it's part of a larger blank check policy, and world leaders across the world, from the United States to even Russia, need to stand up to Mohammed bin Salman and the Saudi Arabian government. No more high fives. We need to hold this regime accountable.
Now, if the U.S. is already not doing that job of kind of being the checks and balance to Saudi, who would be?
Well, I think that there's a growing movement in Congress. They have two key votes this week. In the War Powers resolution, the Senate has a vote on SJ Res 54, and the House has a vote on HCon Res 142. And each of those votes together would cut off U.S. military support for the Saudi-led coalition. So while the administration is steadfast in its support, there's definitely a growing movement in the House and Senate to cut support for these war crimes.
And tell us, while you have all these people watching, why should Americans care about this matter? Because you don't hear about this very often on mainstream media. They've started to talk about it here and there, which makes you question why they've jumped on board on talking of this matter. But Americans in general aren't very familiar with this war in Yemen, but now their own taxpayer money is inadvertently, as they say, being funding this battle.
I think more and more folks are starting to wake up to the atrocities happening in Yemen. The humanitarian crisis is on a biblical scale, like I mentioned. 16 million people on the brink of famine. So obviously the mainstream media has not given it the attention it needs to really wake Americans up to what's happening.
Why do you think that is?
That's a great question. You could probably tell me. I think we are obsessed with clickbait, and the war in Yemen probably isn't as exciting as some of the issues like Stormy Daniels. I think MSNBC brought up Stormy Daniels like 500 times this past year and barely mentioned Yemen. And so I think that's definitely part of it. But like I said, we've got two big votes happening, and your viewers can help out by reaching out to their senators and reaching out to their members of Congress and just saying that we want an end to this support for this war. So.
And that American citizens don't want their hard-earned dollars to go towards the starvation and illnesses that are being spread across Yemen.
Absolutely.
From this war. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and expertise with us. Hassan El-Tayyab, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.